Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 5 Technology News. This is your host, Dr. Yavuz Selim Sılay, physician, entrepreneur, and venture architect. Today, I'm doing a very special startup investment exclusive episode, only for the viewers' request. This 5 Technology News is going to highlight very important points. So if you are an angel investor or a startup company seeking money to grow your business, make sure to follow this episode. Ladies and gentlemen, over the past 2 decades, the venture capital industry has exploded beyond anyone's wildest imaginations. What began as a sleepy, slow industry in Boston and Menlo Park has now expanded to dozens of cities all over the world, including Istanbul. The National Venture Capital Association estimates that venture capital companies deployed more than $130 billion only in 2018 and 2019. And thousands of new investors have joined the ranks in recent years to find the next great startup. All that activity, though, poses a dilemma for many founders and entrepreneurs that I also work closely. Who actively writes checks? Who is a leader in a specific market or vertical? Who has the conviction to underwrite path-breaking investments? Who ultimately do you want to have by your side for the next decade as your startup grows? There are several lists that you can look through that rank VCs by their exit returns. There are lists that rank young VCs by their potential. There are lists of VCs who claim investment interest in various sectors. There are lists that try to ferret out deal volume, impact, and other quantitative metrics. There are internal lists at accelerators that share collective wisdom between founders. So the question is again, who actively writes checks? Who is a leader in a specific market or vertical? Who has the conviction to underwrite path-breaking investments? Who ultimately do you really want to have by your side for the next decade as your startup grows? Because at the end, your investor is not only giving you money, but also your network and also passion to grow your business. So all those lists and rankings have an important function to serve. But for all the compilations of investors out there, when we look, we couldn't find a single one that publicly answered a simple yet vital question. Who are the VC investors? Who are leaders in specific verticals? Who should be a founder's first stop during a fundraise? As you know, you first start with your own money and your parents, and then you turn to angel investor. That's the reason we call them angel investors. And from there, you continue with VCs, PEs, and also continue with different varieties of chains to really take your company and make it a global company. So today's venture industry is made up of thousands of investors with varying specialties, different ticket sizes, and far too many passive investors that are willing to participate in rounds but don't actively participate in deals unless other investors have committed. So one person to be committed can sometimes mean several people. Make sure as a startup, when you're dealing with investors, don't think them isolated. They can really influence each other. And many of these investors don't actively push to get deals done or don't actively lead the charge to build a syndicate of investors. So it is upon the startup company to work out this investment relationship and make sure it is done. So with all that in mind, I'm really excited to announce that a new initiative has been launched, and we hope that will help answer those questions and help founders find that first check. It is called the TechCrunch list. You can Google TechCrunch and also make sure if you are an investor, you can actually put your information there, because over the next few weeks, TechCrunch is going to be collecting data around which individual investors are actually willing to write the proverbial first check into a startup's fundraising round and help catalyze deals for founders, whether it be seed, Series A or otherwise, out of your Series A investors, the first person who was willing to write the check and get the ball rolling with other investors. The biggest challenge, ladies and gentlemen, is not just the money, but having a good team, making sure you're able to scale up your business, you have a good business plan, good patent strategy, a way forward, a good product, if you are a product-based company, and if need to be pivoted properly, but make sure these investors are also by your side. So in this puzzle, investors are important. And once TechCrunch collected and cleaned, analyzed the data, they will publish the list of the most recommended first check investors across different verticals, whether it's healthcare, whether it's digital, whether it's energy, and the investment stages and geographies. So founders can see which investors are potentially the best fit for their company. So please go to TechCrunch and make sure if you are an investor or potential investor who is willing to write the first check, that your name is registered there. Because founders are used to being specialized. After all, they have to live and breathe their startups every single day. So it can be jarring to start talking to generalist investors who has no idea about that category and ask shallow questions only to render a judgment with irrelevant advice. So one of the greatest impetuses for us as Ntr TV is to talk about the TechCrunch list is that, like founders, you may also struggle to cut through the noise around the interests of individual VCs. And as Ntr TV, we want to help the business, the entrepreneurs, as well as the investors and startup companies around Africa and around the globe by entering this TechCrunch list. We'd argue that this is close to impossible. There is more spent on technology than ever before in history, and verticals are getting even more complex, competitive, and specialist. And market maps that used to have 10 to 50 companies have expanded to hundreds. Look at the startup and investment landscape in Istanbul and Turkey. I mean, from 2010 to 2020, we call it a 10-year challenge. It is the volume of investors, the startups, angel investor networks have increased magnificently. So the only way to compete today is to specialize. And that has never been more true for VCs. That's why specializing is critical in the areas such as healthcare, energy, finance, digital, tech, medtech, and others. In all, this TechCrunch list will publish the most recommended first check writers across 22 different categories, ranging from D2C and e-commerce, brands to space and everything in between. Through some data analysis around total investments in each space, Ntr TV also believes that these 22 categories should cover the entirety or majority of the venture activity as of today. To make this project a success and to create a useful resource for funders, we need your help, ladies and gentlemen. We want to hear from company builders, company owners, and we want to hear from them directly. To make this project a success and create a useful resource for funders, we need your help. We want to hear from company builders. We want to hear from them directly, and we will be collecting endorsements submitted by founders through the form that is on TechCrunch. Through this form, founders will be asked to submit their name, their startup, the stage of the company, the name of the one first check investor they want to endorse, and a couple of minor logistical items. And the questions that have been asked to the founders here for their on-the-record endorsement, and that you limit your recommendation to one person per fundraise round. So the startup's role will be very important, because as a startup, now it's time to endorse your one investor per fundraise. So while many investors may have helped you in your journey, we are specifically interested in the person who most helped you as an entrepreneur get around underway and closed. The one who catalyzed your round, the one who guided you through the fundraise process, the one investor you would ultimately recommend to other founders who are trying to find their VC champion. As Natural TV and as 5 Technology News, our main goal in this episode is to help the founders, the dreamers, and company builders find investors who will invest in them today. And with your help, we think we can. The TechCrunch list is not meant to identify every possible investor under the sun who might make an investment within a space, nor just the big household name VCs whose reputations can sometimes seem more linked to their follower counts on Twitter as opposed to their bold term sheets. Our hope is that this can be a go-to resource for founders looking to fundraise going forward. And with that in mind, we are very determined to improve the glaring representation gaps in the venture industry. It's no secret that the world of venture capitals still looks like a country club membership roster, dominated by white men with strong opinions and loud voices. Looking at the data, it's clear that there are groups that are particularly underrepresented, with only a small portion of the industry made up of Black, Latinos, female investors are some examples. So we want to amplify these voices, the minorities, or really that will represent the entire global investment landscape. And we want to hear particularly from founders of color, female founders, and other underrepresented groups. We also want to make sure our recommended investor list that TechCrunch will also share through Natural TV are sufficiently representative and highlight underrepresented investors who might not have an equal opportunities in the past. As Natural TV, we want to help builders, venture architects, wade through the BS politics and fundraising annoyances that founders complain to every one of us about on a daily basis, and help them identify qualified leads that are actually active, engaged, and specialized, and are the best fit to help founders raise money and grow now. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your support. I'm really excited on behalf of Natural TV and 5 Technology News, which is right now sharing this amazing announcement with more than 44 countries and more than 900 million viewers across Africa. I'm really excited to support TechCrunch list with you and for you. So please go to techcrunch.com, make sure you log into this link and make sure you actually actively register your favorite first check writer. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, Dr. Selim Sulay. Even though it is 5 Technology News, I felt this is a very important area for technology entrepreneurs and technology investors to be aware of. And as you know, I have other shows like ITB, Study in Turkey, as well as World Health News. But 5 Technology News is very important, especially for the tech people. And this episode was a special episode only focusing on the investors and startups. I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much. This is your host, Dr. Selim Sulay, physician, entrepreneur, and venture architect. Stay tuned with Natural TV as well as TRT World. We'll be tuned and we'll be always with you with very interesting episodes. Take care and all the best. Bye.